Alright, what's up? How's it going here? Today I will be reacting to Oscar Claude Monet's Woman in a Garden 1867, and I know this is a new I'll try not to make as many repeats in a row, but I thought this was a pretty good painting, pretty interesting painting. And let's pop right into this reaction. So what we see here is obviously a woman, and she's strolling through a garden. This painting takes place in Hermitage, St. Petersburg, which is in Russia. And we see this is a rather lush garden. 1867 means that Russia was still under Tsarist rule, I guess. Not sure what that has to do with this painting, but just a little background info for you. And so we look up at the sky, and it's a very dark sky, yet we notice it's a little bit of an inconsistency here, because this lady's casting a full shadow to the point where she has an umbrella covering her head, and that umbrella, if you can see, is very bright. So we've got to assume, yeah, it's probably white, but we've got to assume there's quite a bit of light shining on and through it. So right off the bat, we see a little bit of interpretation here with this very dark blue with some very obvious shades of orange sprinkled through it. And I feel that provides a very interesting and kind of realistic portrayal of the sky. Well, not necessarily in the oranges part, but in the depth of it. The sky isn't. While you might look up at the sky and think this is blue, it's more than that a lot. And perhaps these are little wispy clouds, and that's what that's representing. And as we move down here, we're faced with a gorgeous garden. There are some flowers here, and they're casting a bit of a shadow. There's a tree here that's casting a shadow. There's a shrub here that's also casting a shadow. And I'm not sure if this is just perspective, and these are actually the same size as this, although they appear to be quite small, or maybe more concentrated flower bushes, but maybe this is just a very deep painting that we're looking at here. And I suppose the shadow would reveal that, but there we can't see the shadows cast by that. And like I said earlier, this is a very lush garden we're seeing here, and yet this lady is strolling through in a dress, and that might strike you as a bit wild, but back then women had to wear, well, I mean everybody really wore full body clothing, every inch of the body covered up. So it's not that crazy to think about that, but comparing it to now, that's a bit wild. You see there's a lot of detail. This is detail put into the dress. The dress is likely the most concrete object in the painting, and that makes sense, because other than that it's mainly bushes, trees, shrubs, and flowers. And we can see a lot of care put onto showing the reflection of, not reflection, but absorption of sunbeams on the dress from the angle there. And it almost looks as if the umbrella is not even covering her head, so maybe it's just the perspective of the painter, but it's a bit of an odd way to hold an umbrella, and a rather small umbrella if you think about it, but it's to be expected. At different times back then, it was Russia, you know, not obviously a little bit different than Western nations back then. And yeah, so she sort of seems to be she's I've got to assume she's stopped right here, because it doesn't look like there's any path for her to go around this. She's probably just appreciating the lush scenery. But we look at now let's take a little bit more of a painter's approach to this. We see this is very much emphasized, the brush strokes, every little plop dot thing. like as if he just stabbed the paper a little, sorry, the canvas a little bit, is one of the little flowers or a leaf, or so on. And this almost looks like a bamboo tree, but that would really surprise me if that was bamboo. But if you know what type of tree this is, feel free to leave it in the comments below. But we see there's an intense amount of detail and care put into this, because every one of these little flowers is a separate brush stroke, and every one of them manages to be unique. You can see they've all got some level of white and some level of almost pinkness to them, and that leaves a very interesting and full look. And from a distance, it actually, if you sort of blur your eyes, it looks very realistic, although it's rather clear that this is a painting and not actually a bush. Now we look at these flowers down here. These don't display the intense care and detail seen up here, because red's a bit more of a powerful color, and he was pretty much mixing the white with a little bit of red up in the top, and just some more. And you see, we have 3 of the different types of leaves or flowers or what have you in this painting, and we see each one is painted differently. And now, obviously, yes, it would be a bit wild of him to paint them all the same, but if you looking at how different they look really reveals that he's going for something. Monet is going for the accurate portrayal of what he's presumably seeing, what this painting is presumably a study of. And now we look up here. This is pretty much a wall of black, and we see a little blue popping through in the sky, and you notice, interestingly enough, that actually may be flowers, but it's more likely to assume that this is just a not too dense foliage, although he did paint this over top of the background, so this might be an ivy wall with some blue flowers poking through, and that could be possible, as over here we see we have both of them in the same painting, in the same image. These are clearly completely different shades of blue, and for all we know, that might be why he chose to do the blue tinted with, or backed with orange for the sky. Maybe it was just because he wanted to he was more focused on accurately portraying these flowers here. Now, these don't necessarily show the same amount of care. You can sort of see he's sort of squiggled them, but I mean, at least that makes it look rather interesting. It's not just a little daisy somebody sketched up. But yeah, overall, fantastic painting. I hope you've enjoyed this art reaction to Woman in a Garden, 1867, by Oscar Claude Monet. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed.